Hello, I'm IBXToyCat, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing something that's hopefully quite revealing, because I'm going to be showing off all of the secret blocks currently in Minecraft for Xbox and Minecraft PlayStation, but I'm going to be showing them off in all of the different texture packs currently out right now, which is something like 10 or 11. What do I mean by secret blocks is what you might be wondering. So I mean a collection of blocks. I mean stuff like the stained glass, which is a feature coming in the next update, which you can currently get through inventory editing only. I mean stuff like command blocks, which are kind of the same thing. Stuff like the skeleton horse and the zombie horse, which can only be achieved through modding and which you really shouldn't even be able to access. And then there's stuff that you can get in survival, but you've probably never seen in all the texture packs, like the mushroom block, for instance. This is a block that you can only get by bone milling a mushroom, then silk touching it and going back into creative. And we also have the ender dragon egg, which can only be obtained once per world, of course. And hopefully, because the people who retextures all of this stuff for all of the different texture packs, they do work at 4J Studios, they're an in-house texture pack team. Hopefully they know something about this stuff, and we could see some hints in these textures. So, for instance, the ender dragon egg might give us a hint as to what's going to come out of that at some point, because, you know, maybe if it's textured differently, it'll give us some form of hint. That's what I'm hoping for. Even if we don't get something really cool like that, at the very least, you'll get to see all these cool blocks in different textures, and that should be fun at the very least. So please do like the video if you do like it. It would help out the channel a lot, and it lets me know that you like it. And let's get straight into this. You've seen all the blocks now: stained glass panes, command blocks, the ender dragon egg, the mushroom block, and the two horses. Let's go see them in the first texture pack, which I believe is the natural one. Apparently I was wrong when I said it was the natural texture pack, because it is the candy texture pack. So this is one of the more interesting ones because it's just so different. And here you can see the stained glass is kind of like the glass texture, where it's just kind of the vines going up nowhere. Still very weird to look through because it has the effect on water where you just can't see anymore. And yeah, in all the different colors, it is very, very cool because like the colors are very, very pronounced in the the stained glass in this case, and it's very, very cool. The stained glass panes are the same, but of course a very thin thing. And these do really look like ladders. Like this looks like a curly whirly ladder, and it just isn't, unfortunately, but you know, that's just a shame right there. And besides that, we have the zombie horse and the skeleton horse, which in this texture pack don't look very candy-y, if I'm going to be entirely honest. They look very similar to their normal thing. If they do look like a candy, I can't tell which one they're meant to be. And then finally we have over here the ender dragon egg, which is just a chocolate egg, which is pretty cool in my opinion. I do kind of like that, but it's not particularly hinting about the future. But it is still really cool just to see an ender dragon egg just being made out of chocolate. And then we also have below that, we have the mushroom block, which looks nothing like mushroom. Maybe when it's in a full-grown mushroom it makes more sense, but as a cool standalone block, this is definitely a lot better than the, you know, default mushroom texture, because you could use this as a build, like if you're using this texture pack, and I think that's pretty cool. So finally we have the command block, which is again made out of chocolate but with loads of buttons on it. I like this one quite a bit too, but again, nothing too revealing here. By the way, if you're wondering, these blocks, they can't be broken and they don't actually do anything. I know lots of people are like, ToyCat, left trigger, I want to see the commands. You can't actually do that right now. But yeah, let's move on to the next texture pack. Okay, so we are here with the cartoon texture pack, and as you can see, very lovely texture pack. It just makes the whole island I'm currently on just look really lovely, especially the trees. But as far as the blocks we're actually talking about today, the zombie horse looks really, really scary. Like, you can see they put a lot of effort into this design. And the skeleton horse, again, looking quite similar to its default one, but still keeping that kind of terrifyingly cartoony look up, which is kind of cool in my opinion. The stained glass is a really cool one to look at, because if you look at all these individual things, you can see that it's got like a slightly crooked texture on it, which I really like. Like, this definitely fits the cartoon texture pack really well, and it looks really cool. I like the stained glass a lot. Stained glass panes, same kind of thing. I figured this would always be the case, but I'm worried that one day these would just be entirely a different thing, so we'll keep checking the texture packs for that. We also have the command blocks here, which really, this is just a really nice texture on them. I like it quite a bit, but it's not too revealing. We have the mushroom block, which looks quite similar to its default one. And we have the ender dragon egg, which is a bluish color for some reason. I can't really see any reason for that. I mean, it's not a massive hint or anything, but it is still very interesting to see the ender dragon egg just being, you know, like this entirely different color for some reason. Maybe it's a hint, but I highly doubt it. But we'll see as we go along, why don't we? So yeah, this is the cartoon texture pack. Pretty cool, pretty nice collection of stuff. Particularly the stained glass. I really like this texture, and yeah, it fits into the texture pack quite well. But let's move on to the next one. And we're back here in the city texture pack. So, as you can see, this is meant to be the super city kind of building texture pack. The stained glass is probably, you know, again, it looks cool in most texture packs, so I'm going to get the idea here. But as you can see, it looks very cool in this one in particular. I particularly like the way, you know, like the bezels are done. The little annoying little white dots are still there, but that's whatever that is. Stained glass panes looking pretty cool too. The command blocks in particular, these are very cool. You can see these are like probably machine blocks, and you know, this, to me, this is a strong hint that they are coming at some point, because They're designed to look like they're doing something. They're not just a blank block here like they are currently, which is very interesting at the very least. We also have the mushroom block, which is amazing to look at. Like, look at that block. That is a really, really weird texture. It's different to anyone I've seen before. At the very least, very, very crazy texture. And then we also have the Ender Dragon egg up here, which is purpley like the default one. Not too much going on there. Finally, we have the two mobs, the zombie horse, which as you can see, got demonic eyes in this texture pack. And we've got the skeleton horse, which looking reasonably similar to its default one, but with a little bit more terrifyingness going on there. So yeah, skeleton horse, zombie horse, looking kind of cool, fitting with the texture pack quite well. They fit in with most texture packs, it seems like that. We also have the command block, which has definitely done the most up here, and the mushroom block, which is just an amazing one to look at. I mean, I think it's a 32 by 32 texture, which is really cool in my opinion. So yeah, that's what we have going on here. Lots of cool blocks. Let's move on to the next one. Next, we have the Fantasy Texture Pack, which is probably the best survival texture pack, at least in my opinion. But what we have here is a really cool stained glass texture. It's a little bit goldy around the edges, which can be annoying to some, but I do like the look that you can actually see going through that. We have these skeleton horse with a very gold theme. Again, this texture pack, it seems to just add gold to everything, and you can see that in your UI, you can see that in the glass, and you can see it in the skeleton horse and the zombie horse too. Which, by the way, has its regular eyes back now, which is a lot less scary to me. Besides this, we have the command block, which is super fantasied up, as you can see here. Not sure what it's meant to be, but it's a very cool texture. The mushroom block is, just kind of a mushroom block, nothing too interesting going on there. And the Ender Dragon egg has this really kind of cool texture here. Nothing particularly amazing revealing about it, but it is still very, very interesting to look at. Like, it's weird at the very least, and maybe it's like indicative of like the Ender Dragon color, but still very interesting at the very least. So yeah, a bunch of cool blocks in this one too. Stained glass, it looks amazing in all texture packs. This might be one of the worst textures for it, but it's still a pretty good texture. And the command blocks just confusing. Mushroom blocks just like so. All the secret blocks, to kind of summarize, they aren't amazing in here. They don't fit the rest of the theme of the texture pack, but still pretty good overall. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, it is the Christmas mashup pack, which is probably, or the festive mashup pack. This is probably the least relevant this time of year, April, not exactly the most relevant thing in the world, but it is still very cool to look at, as you can see. First of all, we'll look at the two horses, because they do have, this is a present horse, as you can see, which is very interesting in my opinion. And then we also have over here the zombie horse, which is kind of like a Santa horse. I do like that even, the scary, scary horses are very festive this time of year, and I think next year this will be a pretty cool thing to look at. But of course, right now, this is probably not a very relevant texture pack, like I said. The stained glass, this is the most interesting thing to me, because every stained glass color has a different type of texture here. So you can see, you've got like, kind of bar texture here, we've got like the interesting kind of bricky texture here, big walls around the edge here. It's very interesting that each type of glass can get its own color. Also, Christmas music is playing now, which is pretty cool. The command block is kind of like a present, it has list buttons on the front, and it's very cool at the very least. I keep trying to left trigger under the belief that maybe in one of the texture packs it will magically work, which makes no sense, but it's still something I kind of want to believe in. We have the mushroom block, which looks a lot like a sponge, to be entirely honest, so if you want a sponge in survival, the festive mashup pack might be as close as you can get. And the Ender Dragon egg, which is just a dark black for some reason. Not too much texture going on there. Pretty festive mashup pack right here. Interesting that the stained glass has different textures here. I thought that would be, something they wouldn't do, but yeah, it's just entirely different, and that's definitely very interesting. The festive horses, festive stuff, and if there's anything this reveals to me, it's that they're definitely they definitely did the textures they're going to use in the end for stained glass. They retextured these horses, which hints even stronger that they do want these horses around, because this was the same time they were bringing out the update, so they knew they weren't including these horses, but they still decided to texture them. And we also have, finally over here, we have the stuff over here, which is interesting to say the least. So, let's move on to the next one, shall we? So now we're in the Halo mashup pack, which is a pretty interesting texture pack. This is an Xbox 360 and One exclusive, because of course that's what Halo is. And as you can see here, the zombie horse is a very interesting texture. It's got no front legs, it's kind of like a dinosaur, and it's very, very different to say the least. Just look at this experience right here. The skeleton horse, a little bit less changed again, but still pretty changed in general, because if you look at this thing, very, very crazy. That skeleton tail is very interesting. And I think, a very, very big amount of effort was clearly done on these two horses. They're kind of basically dinosaurs at this point, which is pretty cool in my opinion. Then we have the stained glass, which is... It looks so very similar each time. Like, you can only just about see the differences. Like, that's yellow, that's pink, that's probably black. Like, these two look exactly the same, but they're clearly not. The command block, as you can see, very Halo themed, very nice. The Ender Dragon egg, now this is interesting. It's got loads of little blue dots on it. I'm not sure if that tells us anything, but it's still interesting at the very least to look at. And then the mushroom block, which is, I don't know, it's just kind of a stairly block. This could actually be seen as like a concrete block. It does kind of, or like clay block, hardened clay block that is. It is kind of interesting in that regard. So yeah, that's what we have in this texture pack. Stained glass is probably not good here because it's so indistinguishable from each other, which is kind of the point of it. Command blocks are pretty cool, the Ender Dragon egg is pretty cool, and the fact that they did the two horses again is very, very cool and very, very interesting. So moving on to the next one. So I get the feeling that we're in a bit of a mashup pack spree right now, and what we have is the Mass Effect mashup pack. So first of all, the glass, unlike the wall types in texture pack where they're all awful and you can't see what's going on, the glass is actually kind of cool and it has a similar texture. And interestingly, you can't, like, there's a texture on each side, then it's like blank space in between. You can't see the texture on the other side through this side, which does make sense, but it's still very confusing to look at. Like, looking through there, you can see it, but you also can't see it. Very, very, very strange texture. Like, just look at this. It's so weird to look through. And that's what we have with the stained glass. Pretty cool, in my opinion. Then we have the stained glass panes, which is the same thing, but it's just one of the textures, no double texture. We have the command blocks, which I'm not sure what these are meant to be, but they're interesting and very, very unique. We have the two modded horses. We have the skeleton horse just here, who's like super, super changed. And we have the zombie horse over here, who is bright blue and covered in lots of like cool stuff, in my opinion. That's a cool These are cool textures because they're not just like the green and white kind of thing we've seen a lot here. They're just entirely brand new here, which is interesting. Very, very interesting. Next up, we have the Ender Dragon egg, which is this really cool light blue here. Like, it's, I imagine it probably matches the Ender Dragon again, but it's still very, very interesting texture. And the mushroom block, this is like a really cool texture that you could totally use for lots of stuff. And I would probably recommend, this is probably one of the most unique places you'd see the mushroom texture, and it's pretty cool in my opinion. So that's what we have going on here. Really interesting stained glass texture, really cool horse textures, and pretty cool textures for the secret blocks too. Let's move on to the next texture pack. Okay, so this is the natural texture pack, the one I said was second, but that is actually something like 8. And here we are, you can see the Ender Dragon egg just looks like an Ender Dragon egg. Nothing too interesting going on here. This was like designed roughly the same time that tech came out, so it was just meant to be a slightly more natural version. The mushroom texture is a bit more interesting, to say the least. The command blocks, now this is a really, really cool one because it looks like it's just like a computer terminal, like a Fallout style one. Finally, we've got the stained glass, which is, it's got a really nice, like the way it all connects together is very, very nice, and the way the stained glass part is actually done is very cool too. So that's what we have going on here. Finally, we have the skeleton horse and the zombie horse, which aren't changed too much, just different eyes and stuff. Again, this texture pack doesn't really change too much, it just gives everything a slightly more natural feel. Like, if you look at the Ender Dragon egg, not changed too much. The only one that's got a significant change is the command block, but everything else, like, you know, the stone, the grass, etc., it's just got subtle changes, and I guess that's where the skeleton horse and the zombie horse fit in. So, moving on, it's the pattern texture pack, which actually came out after the update that brought in, you know, the stained glass, the command blocks, and the zombie horse and skeleton horse behind the scenes. So this means that, you know, the stuff had come out, they knew it wasn't in the game, and they decided to design it all anyway, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, we have the Ender Dragon egg first of all, which, as you can see, has a very, very interesting texture and has similar particles, but still a very just weird texture to look at, to say the very least. Very, very strange. Let's place another one down there right now. And yeah, that's the Ender Dragon egg. Very, very interesting. The mushroom block is a very, very wavy, cool texture in my opinion. The command block isn't changed too much. It does kind of work with the texture pack, but it is, you know, it is kind of similar to the default one, just, you know, not a 3x3 grid on the front, and then this little wooden texture almost around it. Then we have the stained glass, which, as you can see looking at this thing, is a pretty cool texture. It has like little things going between, so it joins up quite well with glass blocks. Very, very cool texture in my opinion. And finally, we have the zombie horse and the skeleton horse, which are this is probably the most effort they put into one of them, because if you look at the skeleton horse, he's like made out of like rainbow things. You look at the zombie horse, he's like an entirely different shade of green with like some weird like patterny textures on him. To me, this is one of the most solid arguments that they're bringing the skeleton horse and the zombie horse at some point, or at least the command blocks to spawn them in, because they made these textures that are so cool just for them when they knew they weren't in the game. But yeah, that's that right there. These are all the blocks in the pattern texture pack. We actually have quite a few texture packs left, so just a few more to go. Next up, we have the plastic texture pack, which I believe was actually the first texture pack to be released. If not, it was the second. And basically all it does is it gives everything that kind of you know, kind of bit feel. It's a very, very basic feel. You can see looking at the hotbar. It's not one of my favorite texture packs, but let's look at the blocks. So the command block is just recolored, like that's all that's happened. Really, like it's just, you know, changed from I think like that browny red color it was before to this sort of color. Pretty interesting if you ask me. We also have the you know, the stained glass just over here, which is just, yeah, it's just stained glass, but with a big kind of dot on there to make it plasticky for some reason. It looks very ugly when there's lots of it nearby. I'm not such a big fan of that like little dot there. Not a big fan at all. It's also on the stained glass, but on the right instead of the left. I'm not sure what the logic behind that is, but it's true. We have the skeleton horse and the zombie horse, not seeing much change because, you know, it's not a very changing texture pack. You can see the subtle differences and how they're much more blocky though, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, that's what we have here, the End Dragon Egg finally and the Mushroom Block, looking basically like their defaults. So this texture pack doesn't change too much anyway, but we did, like, they changed the color on this for some reason. There might be a reason behind it, and there might not be, but it's still interesting. And yeah, that's what we have going on here. Let's move on to the next one, which I believe is Skyrim. So here we are in this Skyrim texture pack, which is, oh, the mashup pack, I guess, which is probably one of my favorite, like, pieces of DLC for Minecraft console, because it comes with that cool Skyrim world, and it also comes with a pretty cool texture pack. And here you can see, looking at the End Dragon Egg, this is the most severely changed out of all of them I can see so far. It really looks like it's going to spawn a, like, frost dragon instead of an End Dragon, but that's just my kind of look at it. Also, if you look at the Mushroom Block, it's entirely different, like, it's kind of an icy block too. The Command Block is just a big mess, really. Like, it doesn't look like a command block, but, you know, that's not to say it's bad, it's just that it's interesting and different in my opinion. We also have over here the stained glass, which is a really cool texture. It's just pretty difficult to see through. Like, I really like the texture, it's just not too practical if you want to be able to see through it, and I could see some really cool churches being built with that. I think that's pretty cool. And then finally, we've got the skeleton horse and the zombie horse. Very, very significantly changed. Look at this horse, it's just bright blue, and look at this horse, it's like super dark and grey and stuff. I think it's based on one of the horses from Skyrim, actually. I forget, someone in the comments last time said that it was. And as you can see, very cool horses, very cool End Dragon Egg, just a pretty cool texture pack in general. I'd say the command block kind of lets it down, and the stained glass is hard to see through, but besides that, amazing texture pack for all this stuff, if it all does eventually come out. And also, if you want to just right now, if you want to like play around with two blocks, the End Dragon Egg and the Mushroom Block do look just kind of amazingly cool. So let's actually use our mushroom blocks, and as you can see, like, you could build something amazing with this, and people would be like, what block is that? And they break it, and they'd just be confused because nothing would come out. So yeah, that's something you could totally do if you want to confuse people. But yeah, let's move on to the last two texture packs. Just as a fun bit of trivia, try and work out what the next texture pack's going to be before I open it. Okay, so this is the Steampunk texture pack. Good job if you guessed it. We have just one more to go after this, and as you can see, the two horses are very clockwork. The zombie horse in particular is like a super cool thing to look at, in my opinion. Skeleton horse is just yellow for some reason, and I guess is made out of like brass or something, so a brass horse and just a super steampunk horse. Very, very cool textures in my opinion. They still kind of keep their default model, but still with a little, a very interesting change in the fact that this is a brass horse and this is like a super steampunky horse. Look, it's even got a meter on his side, like a speedometer almost. If you look over here, you've got the stained glass, which is very, very gold, even more so than like the fancy texture pack. And yeah, pretty cool textures. I like how strong the colors are in between, but I'm not sure if I like the joining, but that's just me personally. The stained glass paints are just the same, but of course the same 2D thing. The command block is something that probably makes the most sense to be changed, and it is pretty severely changed. Because as you can see, it is like I don't know how to describe this block, but it is very cool. And then finally, we've got the mushroom blocks over here. Very, very, very strange block to look at. Like, I don't even know what to think of this. And we've got the Ender Dragon egg, which seems to be like a metal egg in this one, which is, it's pretty interesting. I mean, I think it'd be pretty cool if like every texture pack had a different like Ender Dragon fight. Not that that'd make any sense, but still, like I imagine the Ender Dragon is like a gold dragon, so that's why it's a gold egg, and that's pretty cool in my opinion. So yeah, let's move on to the final texture pack, which is going to be the exclusive one they do like once a year, and let's go there now. Of course, it's the Halloween texture pack, which is probably one of the most changed ones, because it's got like an orange sky, the water's like this weird purple, the ground isn't even like the normal green it is. It's a very, very cool texture pack to look at, and if we look around here, you can see the stained glass, it just has these little interesting like little blocks on them. It does make it difficult to see through, and it's probably not my favourite texture out of all of them. This isn't something I've actually seen before. The rose texture is just really, really cool. The skeleton horse and the zombie horse, of course, they're scary horses, so this is where it makes the most sense. The zombie horse is this terrifying pink with like an orange and black like thing going around his face, and then the skeleton horse has the same thing. but it's even more terrifying somehow than its default texture pack. Just look at this thing, it's absolutely terrifying. Finally, we have the Ender Dragon egg over here, which is like, that's an interesting look. I'm kind of upset, like, as we've come here, there's no, like, Ender Dragon statue in place of the Ender Dragon egg. I was hoping there might be a small hint like that, or maybe like a picture of one-on-one, but, you know, either way, it's still interesting to look at them all. We have the mushroom block just over here, which is, like, again, it looks kind of like a concrete block here, and then we also have the command block, which is very, very seriously changed. I don't know why the command block needs to be so spooky, but apparently it does, and it looks pretty spooky in my opinion. And yeah, that's that. So, dragon egg, command block, stained glass, mushroom block. Very, very cool blocks in all the texture packs. I hope you did enjoy this video. It took me just over half an hour to record, and probably significantly a bit longer than that to edit, but hopefully it is something that you do enjoy. If it is, please do like it and let me know. Share it if you really like it. It helps the channel out, and it directly helps other people see it. And subscribe if you're new around here. I do Minecraft console videos every single day, and you'll see them on your homepage if you subscribe, so that's a pretty handy thing to do if you play Minecraft console. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one.